There we go.
With World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very
What do you guys think about this?
disrespectful to the country. This country.
A little bit of a disaster from what I was looking at.
That's back to you. Far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once? This entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you? You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you can...
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country's in big trouble.
Can I answer?
Wait a minute. No, you've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning.
I know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying, you know.
It's so crazy that they did this like live in front of a bunch of press people. And then JD Vance is like trying to give him crap for fighting back in that thing that they set up. Like, I just don't understand. If you were going to have a contentious discussion, why not do it behind closed doors, right? Like, why would you do this in front of everybody? It's so embarrassing.
Country staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet.
I don't know. Yeah, I didn't really see it as him demanding respect from... I don't know if you watched the whole thing, but he kind of sits here not really saying much for the first 40 minutes. It's not until JD Vance starts to kind of lay into him. And then this guy back here, who I don't actually know who he is. I think he's... Someone said he's Marjorie Taylor Greene's husband, but I don't know if that's actually who he is.
We gave you through this stupid president.
But yeah, this guy was like trying to give him crap for not wearing a suit. And I was like, I think the whole people would be criticizing him for wearing an expensive suit too. I feel like, just the way it doesn't really matter what this guy does, right? Like there's like a huge international effort to kind of smear his name. Not from every country, obviously. Like some countries are obviously veneering him, but, is that the right word? Veneering? Put them in to veneer someone. It just reminds me of teeth, like veneer definition. A thin decorative covering of the wood. Cover, yeah. I don't think I'm using the right word there. Venerate. That's what I'm trying to think of. It's venerate. To venerate him. There is some countries that venerate him, but he's also like, there's a lot of Russian propaganda out there to kind of smear him, right? And say that he's, you know, he's doing drugs and that's where all the money's going and everything. I don't know, man. Just seems a little crazy.
$350 billion.
You voted for your military.
Because he's trying to get those that resource stuff as well, right? I mean, sorry, the label today is a little misleading because I said it's Canadian politics, but we're sitting here watching Trump again. So if you guys have anything you want to watch, let me know. Because most of the news is covering this right now, from what I've been seeing.
Equipment. And you men are brave, but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have our military equipment, our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from.
There's the Doug Ford victory. Sorry, never liked him. I worked with ethnic Russian Ukrainians, so I see this differently. Yeah, that's fair. I mean. Yeah, I just kind of was impressed. I remember I brought up this comparison many times, but I remember one of the first times I really noticed, like saw Trudeau as like a really, really flawed leader was during, even though I wasn't on the same side as a lot of those protests, like during the trucker protests, when Trudeau wouldn't go meet with anybody from that party. And you had Zelensky at the exact same time staying in Ukraine when he had every opportunity to leave if he didn't want to, right? Or if he didn't want to stay. Nobody would have expected him to either. Like even the country, I've heard things from Ukrainians who said they kind of expected him to just kind of do whatever Russia wanted because that's typically what a lot of these leaders do, right? And the fact that he's kind of gone out on a limb. I mean, if he was so corrupt, it would have been way easier for him to just try and get money from Russia instead. That would have been the easiest path forward, I think.
In 3 days, this is something.
Yeah, I agree, Carmen. It does seem a little bit like an ambush. Like they have so many people here all joining in on the discussion. None of them are agreeing with him, aside from some of the press people. But even Trump's getting mad at those press people too, right?
In 2 weeks, of course.
That one lady who asks about the Eastern resources that Trump's talking about securing, about who's going to be responsible for militarily protecting those from Russia, right? And Trump got mad at her for even asking the question. And it's like, well, that's a good question, right? That has a lot to do with what you're trying to get it done here.
Yeah. It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I tell you.
Say thank you.
I said a lot of times to American people.
Accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to.
Yeah, and there was also the deal that Zelensky actually, good thing he did. He brings up the 2019 deal that they made with Germany and France and everybody, and how there was a ceasefire deal then. And, you know, Putin got everything he wanted out of it. He got the guarantees from Germany for the Nord Stream pipeline and all that stuff. And then he didn't follow through on his end of the bargain. So I think it's reasonable for him to expect a little bit more of a promise from the opposing party. Hey, what's up, Jose?
See what's going on over there. I think it's very important.
We're not going to spend too much time on this, just so everybody knows. I'm just finishing up. It's like the last 4 minutes.
I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards. You're buried there. Your people are dying. You're running low on soldiers. Listen, you're running low on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing. And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look. If you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you'd take it so the bullets stop flying and your men.
He took a ceasefire deal in 2019. That's what he just said.
Of course, we want to stop the war. But
you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire
with guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't with me.
For you what,
that wasn't with me. That was with a guy named Biden.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, too, he really is. I think that his people wouldn't want him to just agree to some ceasefire deal in exchange for all those resources, right? Yeah, I've seen a lot of people saying that. I just don't think that. I don't know. I don't see it.
It was not a smart person.
That was with
Obama.
President. It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets.
No, he's talking about 2019. Trump. That was your deal. That was you. You were president at that time.
Give you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry.
It's going to be a tough deal to make, because the attitudes have to change.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire?
Jose, J.D. Vance, I don't think even really understands. He was trying to say that the conflict started during the Biden administration, and it didn't. It started in 2014. It's been going on for the last 11 years, right? Or I guess almost 11 years. 10 and a half or something.
I understand that it's a heated conversation right now.
What are you saying?
Yeah, Putin signed ceasefire deals before, right? And as soon as he gets what he wants out of the deal, he doesn't keep his end of the bargain. He's a dictator, right? He doesn't have any reason to have to follow through with those agreements.
She's asking, what if Russia breaks the ceasefire?
What if anything? What if a bomb...
This is... Oh, my God. Listen to this.
What if Russia breaks the ceasefire?
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now?
No, you have to have a plan for that. That's the whole problem here. That's why he wants a security guarantee, right? Is because he's not giving any response to that. What if Russia breaks the ceasefire? Then what? You have to have a plan for that. Otherwise, the deal is meaningless. It doesn't mean anything.
Okay. What if they...
I don't know, man. If he's worth $1 billion, then maybe they should be bothering him about the clothes, right? But I mean, this guy's saying he would step down for NATO membership, right? I don't think that his goal here is just to make money. If that was his goal, he could side with Russia. He could have done that at the start. They could have bought him off right at the beginning, right?
Broke it. I don't know. They broke it with Biden because Biden, they didn't respect him. They didn't respect Obama. They respect me. Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot.
This guy nodding here.
He went through a phony witch hunt where they used him and Russia.
Oh, it's Pete Hegseth and the guy next to him.
You ever hear of that deal? That was a phony Hunter Biden, Joe Biden scam. Hillary Clinton, shifty.
Hillary Clinton was never the president. What are you talking
Adam
about?
Schiff. It was a Democrat scam, and he had to go through that, and he did go through it. We didn't end up in a war, and he went through it. He was accused of all that stuff. He had nothing to do with it. It came out of Hunter Biden's bathroom. It came out of Hunter Biden's bedroom. It was disgusting. And then they said,
like, what are we talking about here? Why are we talking about Hunter Biden's bathroom? What is happening here? How is, I don't, oh God.
Oh, the laptop from hell was made by Russia. The 51 agents. The whole thing was a scam. And he had to put up with that. He was being accused.
It's part of their constitution not to have an election during the war, right? Different countries have different rules. There's lots of countries that won't. And I mean, they don't have security right now. Half of their voting age men are on the front line, or all of their voting age men are almost on the front lines. Like everybody over a certain age, right?
All that stuff.
It's down to 25 or something. Everybody over 25.
All I can say is this.
How are they supposed to have a secure election when their border is not even secure right now, right?
He might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, and he might have broken them with Biden. He did, maybe. Maybe he did. I don't know what happened. But he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out.
Well, that's the credit I gave him, Jose, right? Zelensky's a lot closer to the front lines than Justin Trudeau ever would be, right? Like, that's what I was trying to say, is that, I don't know, everything I see from this guy indicates that he does care about his country. Like, what's he supposed, people's houses are being bombed. Children are being kidnapped. This is like a giant October 7th attack on Ukraine right now. And we're trying to tell them that you guys should just make a deal and let them keep what they've taken. Hey, what's up, Turdo? Sorry, yeah, we won't be hating on Trump for very long. We're just finishing this. We're the last 30 seconds.
But you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think?
Oh my God, dude.
Gonna look like?
This is going to be great.
Have we seen enough?
Yeah,
I'm sure it will be. That's a lot. Okay. So there's some stuff on Doug Ford's election win, which was, I don't know. Is anybody surprised by that one? I thought he would probably win, but I don't know for sure. We could watch his election victory speech. I believe he cares about his country too, but that doesn't mean he's right. He looks crushed at the end of this. Yeah, obviously he was hoping for something better. If you watch that, there's people who take clips out of it and make it sound like he's saying stuff he isn't. But if you watch that whole Lex Friedman interview, that whole interview is basically him explaining what's going on to Lex, right? Like, I think Lex looked really underprepared for what that conversation was going to look like. I think he was kind of doing the same thing that Trump is, right? Like, he was trying to put himself at the center of the negotiating table and trying to make it out like, oh, all they need to do is come to the table and talk, and then everything's going to be okay. And it's like, I just don't think I think that Zelensky's seen that that's not how Putin operates, right? Just because he makes a deal with you doesn't mean that you're going to get what you want out of that deal. He's not somebody who's bound to any kind of obligation to keep his word with anybody. He hasn't in the past, and he'll continue to not do it in the future. I respect Trump for trying to work out a peace deal for both Russia and Ukraine. I mean, there's a degree to which I would respect that. I think he's going about it in an absolutely absurd way that's never going to accomplish anything. Like, this is going to look really, I think that what he was hoping for is to be able to get this solved really quickly, right? The promise he was making is that it was going to be over overnight. And he's running into all these hurdles here. And I mean, like, clearly he's had a conversation with Putin already where he knows that he's not going to get any kind of security guarantee deal out of Russia, right? And so he's trying to insist on this much lesser promise of a ceasefire, which Putin...
You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to...
Count one.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know...
This might just be if this is just a circle jerk, though, and they're all just condemning it, then we can switch it to something else, because I mean, you guys already know about what I think is probably going to be pretty similar to what a lot of these people think.
What happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour,
all right,
military and attack.
It or I'm not good.
I don't know how many more times I have to say this, but I've never seen anything like that before in my life. We're going to bring in our party insiders now for the regular Friday conversation. Greg McEachern is a former Liberal ministerial staffer. Fred Delory is a former Conservative campaign manager. And Melanie Richer is a former communications director for the NDP. We were going to talk about the Ontario election.
Trump-Zelensky fight.
Leadership
They
race.
should do a boxing match.
Talk about polling. Greg, that is an insight into what Canada is up against on tariffs, on sovereignty, on all of these things. I mean, just your thoughts on what this says to the world today.
Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona said earlier this afternoon, it looks like the United States, it looks like we've switched sides. And that is my big takeaway from this, in that as long as I've been studying history, following politics,
This is the Liberal guy. He's got a Ukraine thing on, so we'll wait and we'll see what the Conservatives have to say. I feel like they're all going to agree, though.
You can look at who the Republican Party used to.
If there's anybody else, you guys think of anything else going on right now you want to cover? It's just most of the news right now is about this. This is like big news today, right?
Adulate people like Ronald Reagan. That element of the party, lots of things to disagree with, but they would never, ever have sided with Russia. And that's what we saw today.
See if there's anything
I
on
will
CPAC.
note that the leading Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee, Senator Mark Warner, who's the vice chair of that,
Even all the stuff on CPAC is argument in Oval Office. Presidents Trump and Zelensky meet in the Oval Office.
With CNN, did draw a line from what happened today to things that have been happening to Canada around those.
Yeah.
They're going to push us out of Five Eyes, for example. But that was horrific.
Yeah, there's nothing on CPAC that's going to make you guys any less upset, because it's just this David Eby talking for a half an hour, or Melanie Joly talking about navigating the Canada-US relationship, which I'm pretty sure will be a bunch of nothing.
Especially when you know that those scenes in the Oval Office are usually quite scripted, and they have an outcome with other presidents.
Yeah, that's what's so crazy about this, is they would have negotiated beforehand, and then they would come out afterwards and announce what the deal was, not try to negotiate it in front of the press.
No way that there is going to be a surprise there. And to see the president and the vice president, with very little military experience, gang up on the president, keeping real reporters out of the room, and having a reporter who's apparently the boyfriend of a Republican congresswoman criticize.
Does Zelensky own a suit?
Does he own a suit? Well, the president just showed us there. I'm trying to make, hopefully my statistics.
I don't know. Again, guys, I'm pretty firm on this. I think that if he came to other countries wearing a really nice suit, people would criticize him for that as well. They would say, how is this guy affording all these nice clothes? Well, his people are in military garb. He'd be criticized either way, right? He's trying to present himself in that way, right?
Are correct here, but I believe 43,000.
These aren't reporters; they're just commentary people. They're like journalists and ex campaign staffers and stuff.
Ukrainian soldiers.
The only reporter here, I think, or journalist would be David Cochran, I think.
Died. It's estimated that 200,000 Russian soldiers have died, probably 12,000 Ukrainian civilians. And in the same breath, the president of the United States mentioned some casualties and then moved on to his.
What'd you guys think about Trump getting mad at some of the questions? Like CNN asked that question about who was going to defend the rare earth minerals when they promised half of them to America, and Trump got all angry, and then they asked him what they were going to do when he breaks the ceasefire, and he also got really angry at that question too, right? The only questions he wanted to answer had nothing to do with the conflict. There was some guy who started asking about free speech in Britain, and they were like, oh, thank you, very good question, blah blah blah. He's not a military leader, he's a dictator, just like JT. Well, he offered to step down if he gets NATO membership. It's a pretty weird thing for a dictator to do. It is disrespectful to show up in sweats. I mean, what's his face? Elon Musk keeps on showing up to the White House dressed like an idiot. So I mean, I don't think anybody cares when he does it. I just don't care. I just don't think it's important. I mean, I guess maybe for church, I would understand some kind of and you know what? The White House, sure. You're president or something like that. You should respect the office and do it. But I understand where Zelensky's coming from. He's got his little insignia on his coat, and that's what he does, right? couldn't believe how patient Zelensky was being throughout that. I mean, I guess he's at war, so he's got that resolve, but damn. Yeah, no, I agree. If I was him, I would have been losing it. Those guys were, you want to talk about being disrespectful. I feel like he was being disrespected the whole time. They were like making fun of his clothes in the meeting. Like it's just so crazy. Like you want to talk about, yeah, sure. You can say that like dressing up like that is disrespectful, but I mean, bringing it up is equally as disrespectful. It's like some background guy did it too. He's used to showing up to countries and being showered with cash and praise. This was a rude awakening. I don't think that's the case. I think that he's used to having people question every single thing he does. They make him take pictures of every single shipment of munitions that they get on the front lines. They take pictures of the munitions on the front lines every single time. They pay extra money that they're given. Like that, a lot of those funds end up going to the transfer and shipment of those arms to ensure that they end up in Ukraine on the front lines. I don't know. When at war, you dress up to reflect the reality. I've seen presidents dress similar. He's used to show JD Karen chirping the whole time. Yeah, JD Vance was really, really cringe in that. The U.S. only gets involved when it wants something, but no one is talking about the ethnic Russians who have endured horrible things. Yeah, but I mean, they're enduring horrible things at the hands of Russia, in my opinion. The one thing they sold to Mexico cartels, sure. I don't know how they would have done that. Which ones did they sell to Mexican cartels?
Approval ratings.
How would they even do that? They're on the other side of the world.
A trucker's cap.
Is it American companies that are like they're under the table selling it to Mexicans or something? Like, I don't even understand how that would happen.
You know, it is a frightening time.
Yeah, Fred, like 20,000 Ukrainian kids have been kidnapped, taken into.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, this is literally like Russia is Hamas terroristing Ukraine right now. Like they're doing the same thing that the October 7th guys did. They're going in there and they're like pillaging and they're kidnapping kids to use as ransom on people who are working in factories and stuff that would shut off power if they didn't.
You know, I'm trying to think of a historical equivalent where something like this could happen. I think like Winston Churchill and FDR, you know, negotiating the Lend-Lease agreement for the Second World War and Churchill getting berated. You know, I mean, what do you make when you see that kind of a moment?
It was crazy, as you said. It was.
Yeah, they're all just going to be saying the same thing as me. So this is a little silly to watch this, but I mean.